China's calculus on Taiwan was never being made because of America standing up for international law. China's calculus on Taiwan was made because Taiwan is an island. It is very well defended. It has critical economic and technological capabilities the Chinese need. So a military effort against Taiwan would be an unacceptable, damaging risk for the Chinese Communist Party. That's why they haven't made that move. Remember, Taiwan is not considered an international issue. It's not a foreign policy for China. China considers Taiwan a domestic political issue. So they're not responding to what the Americans are doing in Venezuela.
Do you at all think it's likely that China makes some moves on Taiwan beyond the military, economic, coercive steps that we've seen, the fighter jets whizzing in the air? Does it stay in this realm or does it go one step further?
The risk report we put out every year is for the year. So if this were a 5-year report and we were talking about 2030, Taiwan would be on the list. But for 2026, it's not on the list. In fact, U.S.-China relations are a red herring this year. Trump is excited about, looking forward to his trip in April to Beijing to meet with President Xi. President Xi will reciprocate and travel to the United States later in the year. They are looking at engaging more on soybeans and semiconductors and other things. And on Taiwan, the Japanese made their tough statements on Taiwan, and the Americans called Takaichi Sanai, the new prime minister, and said you should really cool it down a little bit. So no, we don't think Taiwan is a significant risk this year.
One of the risks you talk about, which is your second risk, is overpowered. The fact that you've got two very different approaches, America betting on the petro economy, China going the EV way, and their different approaches to artificial intelligence. How do you see that risk play out through the year, and which of the two approaches at the end of the year do you think is more likely to have come out to be the right approach?
Yeah, this is, I think, really underappreciated. The fact that the United States, of course, is really betting heavily on oil, gas, and coal. The U.S. is the biggest producer in the world of oil, 13.5 million barrels a day. It is an extraordinary petro state and is exporting a lot. There are, with Venezuela, Trump is not talking about democracy, but he's talking a lot about getting the oil. Now, it's going to take a long time before companies are going to invest and get a lot more out, but that is the orientation. While Trump has described renewable energy as woke climate policy, and he's clawing back American industrial policy to try to support post-carbon energy. Now, the Chinese are the biggest fossil fuel users in the world, and they're building out more coal, but they're also building out unprecedented amounts of nuclear and wind and solar and the batteries to support that and the supply chains to support that. And, fossil fuels are a 20th century energy, and they're not getting cheaper. And post-carbon energy is a 21st century energy, and technology is making it cheaper every day. And so now China has become an electro state, and they're behind the U.S. on AI, but they're way ahead of the U.S. on powering AI. And the Chinese are making a bet that the ability to power and drive your infrastructure and export that to the world is a much better bet than having slightly better AI that you can't actually power. And I fear that this is a huge battle that the Chinese are winning, and the Americans are only fighting with one hand, and not even their strongest hand long term.